So one thing that you notice about this world is the sheer amount of population growth, where after World War II, because of Pax Americana, you see a massive boom in population. And unfortunately, this is not sustainable. It is not possible for the planet to sustain 8 billion people, many of whom want to fly around the world twice a year, who want to drive an SUV, who want to have food, who want to have avocados every single day. They want to have like cherries every single day, okay? So this population growth is not sustainable. And basically what happens is this: when you are too off balance, when there's a correction, the correction is pretty extreme, okay? So this chart by itself, the fact that we have so many people, means like if there's a crisis, the population will see a massive shrinkage, okay? You're like, okay, how? And the answer is food scarcity. Food is today pretty common, but food is based on global trade, okay? So let me show you what I mean by this. All right, so the yellow, okay, are places that need fertilizer to grow food, meaning their land is not good for farming, so they need fertilizer to grow food. They also have a large population. And as you can see, a lot of this is based in Africa and maybe Central Asia and parts of South America. Ammonia is a chemical produced from oil to petroleum that is fundamental for fertilizers. And as you can see, this is mainly in the north of the world. And what allows for 8 billion people is the fact that the north is able to export fertilizer to the south. And that's it, guys. You understand? If this were to stop for whatever reason, people in the south would be in a lot of trouble. All right? So as you can see, this trade in fertilizer is what sustains a global population of 8 billion people. Again, if there's a disruption to this trade, the people in the south are in a lot of trouble. All right. So, if you're in the green, you're okay? But if you are in the red, you are in a lot of trouble, okay? You are in a lot of trouble if you are in the red. But honestly, if you are not in the green, you could still be in a lot of trouble, because again, what we're looking for is resilience. The idea of efficiency is, let's imagine the best case scenario and try to make as much money out of it as possible, okay? The idea of resilience is, let's imagine the worst case scenario and see if we can survive it. Basically, if you have food security issues, you are facing a massive problem, okay? Because again, we're imagining the worst case scenario. And again, I hate to say this, but if you're not in the green, you should be worrying right now, okay? And where's China? Not in the green, guys, okay? It's something that national leaders in the world have to start thinking about right now: food scarcity. All right, water. Again, the countries that suffer from food scarcity, some of them also suffer from food scarcity, okay? From water scarcity. Okay? All right, forget this. All right. Okay? So basically, this area is not trouble. I would say that water is far more problematic than food. And again, I hate to say this, but if you are any country here, what's going on here? If you're any country in this area, okay, you should be worried. freedom is a very important issue because freedom is actually important for resilience issues. Okay? And what this means is that when there's a crisis, leaders and the population need to collectively make sacrifices. But when there's very little freedom, meaning there's very little transparency and accountability, where the public don't have access to the leadership, then the leadership could possibly make selfish, self-defeating decisions. And the public is not involved, and therefore the public refuses to make the sacrifices necessary in order to make the nation survive, okay? And so this leads to conflict around the world. And again, countries that suffer the most from food issues and water issues also are most likely to come into conflict with other people, okay? So this is a map of nations at war. The red means that they are at war, okay? And you can see Africa and the Middle East is especially under a lot of conflict, a lot of stress, while at the same time they're suffering from food scarcity and water issues, right? So what you will see, another issue I want to bring up is the idea of megacities. And the idea of megacities is any cities that have over 10 million people. And you think, wow, like spaces are amazing because you have like shopping malls and you have like skyscrapers. That's great. No, guys. Megacities are really bad. Okay? Megacities should not exist. They exist because of globalization. Because what megacities do is they're able to bring in a lot of people, have them specialize in a particular area, make it industrial, and then export it to the rest of the world. Okay? And where are most megacities located? Well, they're located in India and in China. This is a problem because India and China both suffer from food and water issues. If you are to be resilient, you actually want most of your population not in cities, but in the countryside growing food. Because first of all, they are self-sufficient. Second of all, you will have a food supply. Unfortunately, right now, China imports a quarter of its food. And also remember, food also requires energy to grow, right? So China imports 75% of its oil. This brings up the question of how resilient is China. Okay, but not just China, but also any big country with a megacity, or too many megacities, India specifically, will face problems in the future. Again, if you're a national leader, you should be worried right now, okay? All right. So, with this war and with disruptions to global trade, we should expect massive instability in nations that are not very resilient, okay? That have very little freedom, that have food issues, and which have water issues, okay? And so you would see revolutions, you would see wars, you would see famines, which leads to what? Which leads to massive migration, okay? And so these are trends, these are migration trends that we're already seeing where people from Africa, Middle East are moving to Europe, and people from South America and Latin America are moving to the United States, okay? And we should expect these trends to not only continue, but to accelerate by maybe 100 times, okay? And you think to yourself, okay, well, what Europe and North America can do is just build walls, right? They should right now build a wall because you're going to see a massive influx of refugees due to food and water issues. And unfortunately, Europe and North America have a huge problem. And the problem, of course, is aging, okay? So in 2020, the countries in purple are countries that have a significant elderly population. And this is 2050, where the entire Northern Hemisphere will have and significant elderly population. So the North, the industrial economies are aging very rapidly, which means their only option is to bring in cheap, desperate workers from the South who are fleeing conflict zones in order to run their economies. Right? The problem of this, of course, is that this will lead to cultural conflict where the local populations, native populations, will feel they're being replaced by these refugees and these immigrants. And this will probably lead to civil conflict within North America and within Europe. Okay? And unfortunately, there's really no way around this issue because the elderly are in control and they want people to mow their lawns. They want people to nurse them. They want people to deliver food to them. And unfortunately, young people don't have to do that because their parents have money. Okay? So the only way around this issue is by importing cheap immigrant labor. Right? Okay. With the end of Pax Americana, what you will see emerge is regional trading blocks. Basically the idea of mercantilism, okay? Mercantilism. And for most of human history, this was what we did, where there was no one power that controlled the entire world. What happened was that maybe you had a local hegemon which guaranteed trade among its allies, okay? And you didn't trade with other people, you only traded within your regional trading bloc. And that's the world we're heading back towards, okay? So this is a map of the 16th century, 17th century, where, you have these mercantile empires, like the British, the Portuguese, the French, the Spanish, and they had their own trade networks. And they refused to work with each other, but the system worked fine, okay? It was more expensive, it was not so convenient, but it still works. So this does not mean the end of global trade, it just means much more limited global trade, right? Another thing that you will notice about the Asian economies is slaves were a very important part of the trade. And the reason why is this. You need energy to run society. Today we use oil. Back then they used human beings. Right? You can no longer have access to cheap oil. What you do is you enslave people. And that's the way historically we've done things.